You're listening to XS Gaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander Skullion and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time you guys are checking us out, and welcome to another episode of XS Gaming Podcast. This is episode 118. We're recording this on the 20th of May. I can't believe this month's already over. I'm one of your hosts, Xander Skullion, and joining with me is my wonderful co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
You know what they say, May showers bring June heat, or, something like that. It's always a weather thing. I hope everyone is well. One new thing for May, actually thinking about it since it is the 20th, a month ago, that was when the Nintendo Labo came out, and actually at the moment I am Labo-less because I decided to trade. I didn't trade it back in. I just I turned it back in with my receipt because I was within the time limit, and I just decided it's something it had already. I traded it in almost a week ago, and I just figured it's something if I hadn't messed with it since the 20th of April. I was like, I'm probably just not going to touch it. That's what they asked. It's like, why are you turning it in? I said, dude, I hadn't touched it. It's like, then if I did it, it's probably just stuff laying around. Maybe I've just been stoned since the 20th. I was just lazy. I didn't want to do it. I don't know what it was, but yeah, it's gone now, so I can't give any reports on that, but there's lots of other videos and things elsewhere of people playing with it. I'm sure at the end just wasn't for me, though I do think the idea actually still is kind of cool, just, not my kind of cool, that's all. But yeah. I hope everyone is doing well.
Yeah, I think the Labo, kind of missed a mark with some people. I know in Japan, it actually doubled in sales compared to God of War. And, of course, comparing a Japanese game to a game that was developed by the UK, it makes sense that it made more sales in Japan. But other than that, though, it hasn't really sold as well as I initially thought. I thought it was going to sell like crazy, but it hasn't. And I know a lot of people who went out and got it just to try it out and just to get it ended up, getting too bored with it, or they ended up taking it back, like you said, James. But, overall, it doesn't mean that it was a failure. It just, I think it's just something that we're going to see progress more, and maybe Nintendo will look at what they did and try to make changes for future visions of the Nintendo Labo. It is what it is.
Just too many other games out around this time for kind of like the the real gamers. I don't mean that as a knock, to anybody else, but there's just too many good things to occupy people's times. It's one of those things that it seems like it might be like a little bit too tough for like younger kids, where something the parents definitely, might have to get involved, which sometimes, they might not want to do. They might not have time themselves. It's kind of just one of those difficult things of a certain, market to hit, and maybe, they'll, take some notes from it, could see some revisions. It'd be interesting to see how it, does end up going here. It was kind of crazy in Japan how much that thing, did sell. Just goes to show, like Xbox, not big in Japan, huge here. Different areas of the country, different people, you're going to get those. At the end, it's still just, it was kind of an experiment, probably nothing like super expensive for Nintendo, to like blow a lot of money on. It's not like they're in debt now because of that. But it was just a little interesting thing at that point in time. Don't really know if it's like necessarily a failure. It'll just, we're probably going to see some more from it, maybe see some more interactive, games, things more in tune just for that, new kits. It's just be cool to look out for and see.
Indeed. And speaking of like new games coming out, man, I got to talk about this one because this is a game that, like, it's funny because a lot of people know that I'm a huge Castlevania fan, but I don't think people understood how big of a Castlevania fan I've been. Because, you got to look at the situation when I first started doing YouTube, when we first started our podcast, the only initial Castlevania thing that we really had was Lords of Shadows 2. And when that came out, I remember you and I were very stoked about it, and then it came out and it just kind of fell off the radar. Well, then we had Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, the Kickstarter by Igarashi, and it was funded. We were excited about it, but that was it. We hadn't heard anything else about it, and out of nowhere, we're getting Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. And now this was originally a kickstarting backer perk in the sense that this was an extra thing that they were trying to get funds. And they were like, if this gets funded, it's going to be free for the backers. This is kind of like an extra perk that they were doing. And they did it so the Kickstarter backers that at least pledge $25 are getting this game for free. It's going to be $10 on PSN, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, even a 3DS and Steam. It's going to be on all cross boards for $10, and it's pretty much a 8-bit Vania inspirated platformer. I mean, I was trying to just say exactly what it is. It's pretty much Castlevania without being Castlevania, and it looks a lot like Castlevania 3 because you got the different characters you can switch off between, and each character has their own style. But man, I was so stoked about this. As a matter of fact, today it's Sunday. Today I'm going to go ahead and go on PS4 in a little bit, and I want to see if I can pre-order it, maybe pre-download it. I know you can do it on your phone as well, and because I got to work Thursday when it drops. I got to work at Pachinko World, and then I get off at 3. When I get off at 3, I'm planning on, once I settle down, live streaming it like launch day. I mean, I am extremely stoked about this. What do you think about this, James?
I mean, I could see that being not a big download. I recommend, too, if you can, sometimes what I do is I'll wake up because the stuff will usually be up there at midnight. So, like Wednesday at midnight, you could just kind of wake up, set it up, pick it up, get it going. That way it is ready to go. I did that with the Sonic when the last one came out on the Switch. I think I was still awake right before I went to bed, and I said, let me just go ahead and download this real quick. And I actually ended up playing it right before I went to work for a little bit. I think this is awesome. I know I saw you put up the video and the post about it, and I was like, man, this would be awesome, if they gave this to the backers, which you informed me that, they were doing. I guess it was on there all along. I didn't back it. I've still been, following things on it. I said, I'll just pick it up when it comes out. And this has been a Kickstarter that, maybe some people that did pay are going to be like, man, this is a really long time. We've seen some iffy things from some Kickstarters, but I don't know, I'm a fan of Iga, and I really believe in him, so maybe he's one I'm going to cut a little bit more slack to. I can say, actually, I haven't watched any video footage of this yet. I just really kind of want to go into it. I've seen that one same screenshot, usually I keep seeing, and it looks cool, and Thursdays I'm always off. That's when it's coming out, and I'm just looking forward just to going in kind of blind. Like you said, it's Castlevania without being Castlevania, which is exactly what Bloodstained in itself is. It's what we've all known. Konami can't give us the Castlevania that we want, so we have to rely on developers that made work, especially on one of the most beloved of all time with Symphony. And Iga is much loved in the Castlevania community, so we have to rely on him. And that's why I cut him a little bit of slack as far as time length, because at least he's trying to give us what we want, no knock to, whatever they may do, whether it's pachinko machines or, we've seen some things on this new iPhone Castlevania game, which I think looks kind of neat and I might check out. But for a true, real game Castlevania experience, we have to rely on Iga, and we're working on his time frame. And I think he's going to come out with something that at the end it's going to be worth it, and something that will stand along the lines of, if not necessarily Symphony of the Night, I think could be up there with those GBA releases that so many of us loved, and he was a part of also.
Exactly. Like I said, I'm really stoked about it. Also, some people may be stoked about this. This is kind of like one of those things. Like, is people still wanting this? Is people are still going out and get it? Because I feel like the ship's kind of sailed in some aspects, and that's the Mini NES is coming back June 24th, along with the Mini SNES Classic. And if you've been under a rock, it's pretty much to plug and play NES consoles. It has like 20 games on it, and it's really cool. I kind of feel bad for the people that went out and spent $200 plus on these things, knowing that Nintendo was eventually going to re-release them, and that's exactly what they did. But, I mean, at this point, do you think it's still like something that people are going crazy about, or do you think it's just going to be mainly the casual nostalgia-holics that are going to be picking this up at this point?
And I don't think it's going to be as big. Would be interesting to see. You probably will get the people that try to snag up a bunch and get stuck with them. The SNES Mini has been one that seems to have been, pretty available. I see signs at my GameStop. I think they keep them in the back, just so people don't, steal them, honestly, which is smart. But I think the NES one, it would have been cool to see like a little bit of a revision. Maybe some people would get mad, maybe if you had a couple different games or some extra stuff on it. That would have ensured, some more purchases. I still think a lot of people will pick this up. I don't even know. I'm one of those ones, like, I'm kind of on the fence. Of course, I have the means, to play so many of these things, but I still do like plug and plays. And if it's not a fight to get one, I've been debating the Super NES one also. There might be ones I just pick up, just to have around, just in case, use in a different room, take on a trip. I don't think we're going to see that, just complete fever and insanity. And scalpers. Yeah, scalpers will definitely, they're going to get stuck. It would have been nice to see them do this in the first place, just because, in a sense, they did lose out on some money, and I think that it could cause a little bit of bitterness of people that were like, man, I had to spend, $250 on this. Like, why didn't you just have this for me? That person was a little bit to blame, but I also don't blame them for feeling that way. At the end of the day, they're going to be available at least for people that want them, and that was all we really wanted for these things. The whole time, just to have that availability. So,
yeah, it is what it is. I feel like it's one of those things that if you haven't gotten one yet, now you can go get one. I remember a friend of mine, I was telling him about, making money, like, to get games. I was like, yeah, because I got some jack of all trades when it comes to trying to make some funds to buy new games. I'm like, yeah, go to the pawn shop, look for games like cheap 360 PS3 games, look up the value on GameStop's app, and then buy them up and trade them into GameStop if it's good enough profit. I've told him stuff like that, and he was like, well, I saw a bunch of SNES minis. Maybe I should scoop those up and throw them online. And I'm like, actually, no. I was like, the fact that you see a bunch of them at the store is reason not to pick them up and try to flip them online, because the SNES is very available out there. So kudos to Nintendo for finally making a product that people cannot scalp. I remember when it first came out, I knew some people who did flip it and make some extra money, but at least Nintendo now was like, okay, well, we got to make some more. So that was cool, and I feel like a lot more people got the SNES Mini compared to NES. I saw a lot more Facebook posts. That was for sure. A lot more people were like, "Oh my God, I got the SNES Mini." So that's cool.
That's how it should be. Well, a lot of people, they just want that, Nintendo brand. They like the way it looks. It's super easy. It's all set up for them, and a lot of people just want that. It is just the ease of it. So, like you said, man, it's just good. People can get them. That's how it should have been the whole time.
Yeah. Now moving away from Nintendo for a second and going into Xbox, because I know we don't cover a whole lot of Xbox, but this was a really cool story, and this is something really cool that Microsoft did. Excuse me. Microsoft announced a new controller for gamers with disabilities. This was just announced this a couple of days ago. There was a couple of pictures of it. It says Microsoft has a new control system on its way, designed specifically for those with limited mobility, which has like a base unit, has a couple of different add-ons, making Xbox One gamers a bit easier for those who might struggle with the current controller. And you look at it, it looks like a big, white base controller with a little D-pad, two big buttons. And you're looking at it, and it's definitely, for people that, maybe wheelchair bound, or maybe they got like cerebral palsy or something like that. I think this is really cool. And honestly, I'm going to ask you this, James, because I see this stuff and I get excited, for people with disabilities to be able to play video games, but also, not to sound morbid, but I'm like, man, if something was to ever happen to me, I could still play video games.
Oh no, your brain length was right on mine. I was actually just kind of thinking, like, many times we're just one step away from something like that happening. As many of us, whether you're driving, even walking, riding a bike, so many accidents. It's sad to think about and even mention. And like you said, it is kind of a morbid thought that's in our heads. I go along. I have a really bad eye. I had a detached retina, and I didn't lose complete vision. And, this wouldn't really fall under, like, a thing I think about a lot, but I've got, like, one good eye. So that's just something that's always on my mind. But at the end, it's a disability that's always at the end of my mind, which, like I said, could happen to anybody. I remember somebody rigging up one of these a few years ago, and I want to say they used a 360 controller. I don't know much about this, if maybe they got up with that guy or just had their own team, but I've seen independent parties come up with controllers like these before, and it's just one of those things where it goes back to the the NES Mini just being accessible. Once again, it's a good thing. Games should be accessible to anybody, in any way, no matter if they're handicapped. Or, you could see maybe some more thing in the, games for people that are more vision handicapped, too. You never know, like, interactive as far as, like, sound games. But it's just a really awesome thing to see. These things would be great, for hospitals. We have a lot of kids that are cooped up in there, for so long, and they just, they get to maybe just watch movies, but, what kid doesn't want to play a video game?
Exactly,
and some just can't. Just so to see steps like this, there's always improvements in, technology, and it's these little insignificant things that we take for granted because we just see them in our lives every day as, fully functioning people. But when you get things like this, man, it's just, that's the ones that really make you kind of sit back and are like, man, like, technology is awesome, when you can bring just new things into people's lives that were never able to do that before.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of years ago, when I was listening to All Gen Gamers, I remember they had a guest who had no arms, and he played video games, and he rigged up this, like, I think, like, a special controller, and he was playing retro games. But he was playing, like, Toy Story 3 on the Genesis and stuff, and he played with his feet. And I mean, that kind of stuff is just amazing. But I mean, I always think about that stuff, about how fortunate I am that nothing's wrong with me. But it doesn't mean that I'm always going to be who I am today. I mean, I can get some sort of crazy disease that eats away my arm or something. I mean, medical stuff is just crazy. So the fact that they are making these things for people with disabilities or people who become disabled to play video games, big kudos to Microsoft for that. And hopefully we see something like this, because it's not just Microsoft that is a company that is contracted through Microsoft, and hopefully this company will bleed on to PlayStation and Nintendo Switch and other platforms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
At least inspire other people to take those steps. Also, one could be the first, but to see it just branch out, that'd be like the best thing of it all.
Indeed. Now, what we're going to do because we're about to go take our break, but before we take our break, I did want to talk about something, a game that I know you and I don't play a whole lot. I know I've probably played. I might have played it more than you, James. I don't know, because we don't really
probably
because we don't talk about it on the podcast at all. But Black Ops 4, the fact that it has no campaign, apparently this is a really big deal, which kind of surprised me, because I don't know about you, James, but I don't know a whole lot of people that play Black Ops or play Call of Duty for the campaign.
I mean, to me, it's something I think that needs to be standard. I mean, if initially it's sold, and this is what it's put out as, and they bump up the online, gimmicks and everything for it, and it's pushed as that. But, there's still so many people that don't play a lot online.
Yeah.
There's people, I'm sure, that pick it up. They'd like to have a story, and then they want to be able to play with their buddies maybe on the couch. It's just, I can't think of any the top of my head, but there's been games before that have had like it were kind of online only in a sense. But to have a big title like this, to some they're like, yeah, I could see it coming, but I don't know. I still think you need at least a offline single player experience. Castlevania, there was a Castlevania on Xbox, the one that was really just based as like an online game.
Oh yeah, Harmony of Despair.
Yes, where I had friends tell me, they were like, oh, it's like you need to get on this and play with us. You need to get this, and I was like, well, is it like a game? They're like, nah, you don't really want to play it like by yourself. I don't know if you fully couldn't. But, and that was a smaller one, and I guess it was pushed as that. But just to have a huge, man, that's such like a huge title to have and not have any type of story at all. That's just kind of odd. I mean, I could chalk it up to two, like, I don't play it, so honestly, I don't really care. But it's just weird to me to not have a offline single player mode.
It's just interesting for me to see the different dynamics of people's opinions on it, because I've seen a lot of people that were like really upset that it doesn't have a campaign, and I've seen some people be like, well, I never really played campaign anyway. And I mean, a matter of fact, when I would like my friend Devin, he always buys a new Call of Duty when it comes out. And it's kind of funny because he almost like tries to make excuses for it. Like, I don't care, dude. Do you want to play Call of Duty? That's cool, But I think he like gets into that like, oh, I don't want to be looked at as like a big bro gamer or something. so he'll tell me, he's like, oh, I'm just buying it for zombies, and that's really all he does. He gets it, plays zombies with a bunch of his friends online, and plays a couple maybe online matches, and that's it. And that's been his argument for the past 3 years. Every time the new Black Ops comes out, oh, I'm just getting it for zombies. And I know some people that are just like, I just like playing zombie mode. So I mean, I think Call of Duty is like just one of those things that it's been out for a while, man. Like the popularity of Call of Duty. I mean, Call of Duty's been out for a very long time, but the big popularity of it, like after Modern Warfare 2, it's been over 10 years. And I think it's one of those things like, let old dogs lie. I think the series just kind of just needs to stop for a while. We've been saying that for like 5 years, but still, I think it needs to stop for a little while. But
guess I'll just have to see on the sales of this one. I mean, it'd be kind of a good test, to see if a game like that, if it still sells, and maybe they're just trying to cut costs, or just, I mean, I don't really know why they cut costs because it's like a huge game, but maybe they're just really, seeing what the focus and what most people really do play it for. Yeah. And maybe they could make if they make a really good experience and, bump that up. But it's one of those games too, I wonder, like, it's about its future. It does definitely kind of give it like a shelf space as far as like, well, what happens when the new systems come out? Then it's just... It's like a lot of games, sometimes they just almost become kind of worthless as the next system comes on, and if you play a lot online, there's no more servers. It just kind of brings up a shelf space to it.
Indeed. Well, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the possibility of the PlayStation 5 coming in 2020, according to Take-Two's interview on E3. We're going to talk about a little bit of Walmart title links for gaming that's coming out really soon, and also some of our favorite crossovers, and a very interesting crossover rumored from Nintendo. So sit back, relax, guys, and we'll be right back. And we are back, guys. A little bit of Space Harrier in there. I just love that song so much. It's just so happy. But yeah, speaking of happy news, well, happy for gaming to some gamers. This may be kind of disheartening, but there was a recent interview with Take-Two. It's a gaming company, and they were talking about E3, and they were saying how this E3 they're going to be a little lax. Like they weren't going to put out as much, not make as many announcements because they're prepping for the new console and new PC stuff. And they were mentioning, you know, and they didn't even say possibility. They were like, yeah, we're prepping for PlayStation 5 coming out in 2020. And I was like, what? They pretty much announced PlayStation 5 before Sony did, which I don't know if they're going to get in trouble for that. And I remember I talked to my sister's boyfriend about it because he just got a PlayStation 4 Pro. And he wasn't, of course, he wasn't happy about it. He was like, man, they keep just shortening the times more and more. And I'm like, technically, no. I mean, the PlayStation 4 has been out since 2013. I mean, it makes sense that by 2020 we would get a new console. But I can see a lot of people are going to get upset that a PlayStation 5 is coming out in 2 years.
I mean, you know, you're going to get that, especially for some people if they're a little bit more of a late adapter. You know, I just got mine over, you know, a year or two ago. But I've still been so happy with it. I mean, the quality of titles that are available. And to me, 2020, in a sense, it sounds close, but it's also, I try to think of it like movie previews. I hear about a movie, and the movie could be 2 years away, and I'm like, that's too far away for me to care. Yeah. So, in a sense, I'm going to look at this the same way. Initially, it could be like, whoa, but hey, there's a lot of great games out now. We're still going to get great titles in between then. And it's still we're almost halfway through this year. So at least, you know, probably another halfway into 2020. And that comes out. So that's still 2 years away. You know?
Yeah.
It seems quick, but it's really not.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many PlayStation 4 titles that I still haven't even played yet. There's so much stuff I haven't even touched. And it's not like Sony's going to completely abandon the PS4 once the PlayStation 5 comes out. You know, I'm looking at it in the sense like, wow, I kind of know 2 years in advance that a new console's coming out. So if I really want to, I could go ahead and start saving now. So when it comes out, I could get it at launch if I really wanted to. But, I mean, it is one of those things, like I always tell people, I mean, I remember when the Switch, or back then it was the Nintendo NX, was being talked about, a lot of people were upset because they had just bought a Wii U. They're like, I just bought a Wii U and they're already coming out with a new console. You got to understand that the companies and the industries don't stop for your convenience. You know, they come out and they follow their schedule and they have to meet their deadlines. I mean, the moment a new console comes out, they're already working on the next console. That's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been. And, I mean, the way I look at it, hey, if you just bought a PlayStation 4 and you're hearing this news the first time on this podcast and you're getting upset, keep in mind, hey, those games are going to start dropping down in price. It'd be a great time to get a nice little backlog, play a bunch of fantastic titles, because the PlayStation 4 has been a great, great console. Go ahead and play some of those games now while you're saving up. And then by the time you get a PlayStation 5, the launch games will be cheaper, the bugs will be worked out, and it'll all be gravy. First world problems.
Yeah, because like we said, you know, systems, they usually kind of suck when they first come out. So
yeah,
you're not going to want one initially. Anyway, look at games. God of War, such a huge title, highly touted, everybody loves it. Like, you know, we're just getting that like right now, so that just going to show you, you know, like just the strength of the titles and the games that are still there, the good stuff we're still gonna see. Like I said, 2 years is a long ways away in a sense, and you know, realistically for a lot of us could be looking at like, you know, 3 to 4 before we actually get one, and that's even further away. So the best thing is just like, don't sweat it, you know, just appreciate and soak in all the good shit that's out there like right now for the moment.
Yeah, because I mean, some of the best games for a console comes out towards the end of its lifespan because they completely utilize how to program for it, what to do, what not to do. And I think that's the reason why God of War is so good. Like, if we would have got God of War as a launch title on the PS4, it probably wouldn't be as good as it is today. Like I mean, God of War was announced 2 years ago at E3, and now we got it, and it's going to be one of those games that a lot of people look at as their game of the year. I think it's going to win a lot of awards. It just completely took the series to a new level. I mean, it's just good times. And also, speaking of leaks as well, Walmart kind of slipped up, and on their Canadian website, they leaked 10 titles coming out in the future. One of them, of course, being Rage 2. Walmart leaked that, and then shortly after, Bethesda was like, okay, well, here's the trailer. They put the trailer out. Also, I'm looking at some of the titles. Okay, we got like Rage 2, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, BioShock 3. Let's see. I'm trying to read the little small text on the picture because it was a really, really small screen cap that people did. WWE 2K19.
That's not really a leak.
yeah, it's true. Same with NBA 2K. Beyond Good and Evil 2. I mean, some of
that
this
just
stuff
shows you the other things could be more legit because you're always going to get that NBA or WWE title every year and have it along some other ones. That just shows a little bit legitness to it all.
A new Splinter Cell, Division 2. I mean, the thing about it is like these are games that they announced or they leaked, but they didn't put any like release dates. So it's just kind of like these could be coming out. This E3 could come out a year from now. Borderlands 3, stuff like that they leaked. And it's just kind of interesting that Walmart did that. I was like, oh, shit. I wonder if that's... I always see stuff like that, and I wonder if it's going to be a problem with the companies later on. Be like, I don't... Not that they would pull from Walmart. I mean, that's just too much revenue. They wouldn't do that.
I don't know. It just goes to show, be prepared in this day and age of technology. Leaks are not uncommon. They do happen. A certain store chain screwing up. It just goes to show, hey, just, be prepared. Bethesda, they had always like, hey, yeah, just go ahead and shoot out a trailer for it. Just be on point with it and then try to treat it as like, a nice surprise. Some of those games we've heard about for a while now. Really, so it's we kind of figured they were coming, and some of them are some standards. So, like I said, just stay on point, man. There are going to be leaks and hacks and all kinds of shit like that.
Yeah, I'm excited for a new Splinter Cell and Borderlands 3. I'm excited about that. Also, there's a new Forza, new God of War, not God of War, Gears of War. Gears of War 5 for the Xbox. There's a lot could be happening. This makes E3 that much more exciting. And speaking of E3, there was also another leak that's going to kind of bleed into our topic that I dropped on the XS Gaming Podcast community page on Facebook. But there was a leak that there's going to be a Star Fox F-Zero crossover by Rare Studios. I'm sorry, not Rare Studios. Retro Studios. I was thinking of Rare because
one of those are guys.
Yeah, well, what it makes me think of? It makes me think of Diddy Kong Racing. When it first announced it, I was like, man, this is going to be kind of like Diddy Kong Racing, but with Star Fox. I mean, isn't it kind of funny that a lot of Nintendo fans have been talking about how much they wanted another new Star Fox because some people weren't excited about Star Fox Zero and a new F-Zero, and boom. We're going to be getting in as one weird crossover. I'm excited about it. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think that could be cool, man. Just another, racing game. Mario Kart, you could say, has not been out that long, but it really was like an older game going back to the Wii U. Fast RMX has kind of satisfied, a lot of people. Maybe they want that little bit more space age racing game. So to take two titles, and I'm not the hugest fan of either, but I like F-Zero a little bit more than Star Fox, but I think it could just add in like the cool characters, from Star Fox, put them in this more kind of spacey racing game like F-Zero, and it really sounds like it's just going to be fun, to me. I think the whole idea of it is just really cool.
And surprisingly, it's not the first time that F-Zero and Star Fox had a little bit of a crossover. I know the last F-Zero game that was on the GameCube, had a character with, a Star Fox or, kind of outfit on, and he had the Fzero card that looked kind of like the X-Wing, So, I mean, it could happen. I mean, it's one of those leaks, and it does seem very, very legit with more info that people have been digging up about it. So we'll see at E3. E3 is just right around the corner. And when I asked that question to the community, because I heard about this, and I'm like, well, what would be like some really good crossovers? I know I'm going to read some of them. Chris, BioPhoenix says, Valkyrie profile in Castlevania. Sounds weird at first, but the gameplay would be incredible since both had that same side-scrolling platforming in giant mazes. Also, Chris says, this is a different Chris. He says, Metroid and Mega Man X. That would actually be really, really cool. Vince says, how about a true Metroidvania, Samus and Simon Belmont take on Dracula and Mother Brain? Dude, that would just melt faces. Like, imagine like a weird...
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, imagine like a weird like sci-fi, Dracula's castle shows up in this galactic space fortress, and oh man, that'd be just really weird but cool. Jason,
I was kind of thinking too on one side note though, with that real quick, like say for instance, because Metroid is a Nintendo one, even Castlevania and Contra, both being Konami titles, could be kind of interesting as well.
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember I was talking to Black Metal Gamer. I was talking to Jason about that, and we were talking about like a Contra Castlevania kind of game where it's more of a modern Castlevania. You get like actual weapons and stuff like that. We talked about that a couple of years ago, and we were like, man, that'd be kind of interesting. Jason. This is off the community, not Black Metal Gamer, but he says, how about a proper Sonic and Mario side-scrolling platformer? Like, yeah, that hasn't been a thing, surprisingly. I mean, we've had Sonic and Mario in other, aspects, but never an actual adventure. And let's see. I got a couple more. Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. Now, what would be a good crossover that you would like to see, James?
I'd mentioned Aaron also on the page. It brought up a question of that, and I had told him NHL 95 and Golden Axe. I was thinking of throwing two Sega titles together. I was like, it'd kind of be like Pigskin, but probably good. I'm a big fan of kind of like more violent sports games, whether it's Base Wars, Pigskin, even arch rivals to an extent. To take any kind of sports game, kind of mix it with Barbarians. I'm probably pretty sure there's been a couple of newer games like that as well that have done that I think would be really cool. And another huge one for me, and they kind of did it, I would love to see a WWE beat 'em up game. They kind of touched on this on the Game Boy, Game Boy Color for WWF at the time, Betrayal, which was a very basic beat 'em up. Just made you think of like a little 8-bit, not even as far advanced as River City Ransom. But, to take that into like modern times, as we've seen guys like Hagar, he was a wrestler, used the spinning pile driver. You always see suplexes in Streets of Rage. So wrestling moves have always been, very prevalent in beat 'em ups. But to actually just take the actual wrestlers themselves and throw them in this game, I think could be, I think it would be fucking amazing. I don't know, that's probably just me, but like that would just be like an ultimate,
Yeah, I think mine would be, because I really like Alex Kidd, and I feel bad that Alex Kidd got kind of thrown under the bus with Sega, with Sonic's becoming the new mascot. I would love to see Alex Kidd. And it was always, every Alex Kidd was always Alex Kidd in Wonder World, or, Miracle World, or Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. So I would like to see Alex Kidd in the Mushroom Kingdom. I would love to see Alex Kidd take on the world of Nintendo, to have that Sega flair. Like he would have, his own Easter eggs, like Opa Opa would join him in certain levels, like maybe like a side-scrolling, like shoot 'em up stage where he's on top of Opa Opa and he's like pointing, and Opa Opa is like shooting certain, flying Koopas or something. stuff like that, or maybe he's in a tropical stage and it's got Congo Bongo is joining forces with him. Something like that would be really cool. And it would be like, because, if you played Sega Gaga off the Dreamcast, it kind of gave a story of what happened to Alex Kidd. Like, he ended up working inside Sega Industries. Like, he ended up working, I think, in the gift shop or something. And it'd be cool if, like, after Sega, the place closed down, he went on a vacation and he ended up going to the Mushroom Kingdom and shit went down. And Mario's not there because Mario's, at the Olympic sports with Sonic. He's doing the Olympic sports, and Alex is like, oh shit, I need to throw down.
This is pretty funny because that idea did cross my head actually earlier today. I was thinking about Alex Kidd. I was like, man, he doesn't get much love, and I could picture him, the Opa Opa and being from like the little submarine levels in like Super Mario Land, because Alex Kidd always had very varied gameplay, with his motorcycles and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would just be, they could really make a weird, because Super Mario Land was kind of taken as a little bit of an off-bit title at the time for Mario games, and I could really see him fitting, into a game like that. It just kind of goes to show, like, gamers, we like crossovers. We'd like to see more of these, especially anything with just Sega and Nintendo. Crossing over. I mean, we got the Olympics, but I mean, I never played that. I don't really know many people that played that game. The idea of it was cool. Yeah, but the actual game itself was not something that was necessarily we really, wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I never got into it. I was just like, man, that's cool, but I mean, it just made me think of like a Mario Party kind of game, and I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, I guess. But speaking of games, though, before we close the show, because we're running short on time, I thought we would go into games we've been playing recently. And I don't have a huge list, but there was one game I did want to kind of touch base on, so I'm going to throw it over to you first, James. What have you been playing recently?
Okay, well, I did recently as I traded in my my Labo. Like I said, not traded in. I got the full price back for it. I was smart. I didn't open my shit. But I got a new Hori mini controller for the PS4. I saw it, and I just kind of wanted it. I'm kind of a controller mark. I like to get them. It's about it's like half. At least like half the size. I think it's like 3/4 the size. It's built for younger players. It's got a kid playing with it on the box, but I got small hands, so like it's okay. Definitely has a bit more of a retro feel to it. It is wired, but it has a 10-foot cord. So
that's
like
plenty,
from where I sit, dude, it's great. I haven't had any issues. I haven't fully played a game with it yet. It was a little bit of a pain in the ass, honestly, trying to get my PS4 to connect to it, because I was just like, hey, I'll plug it in, and it's like, nah, I gotta do this and that, make sure my wireless controller is like off, and I turn on the system with the wired one, and that's technology. But it definitely has a good feel. It's got all your buttons. Doesn't have the rumble feature, doesn't have the light, but or the little touchscreen thing either, But most of that stuff none of us use or really need. If you just want a different type of controller,
it'd be great.
I picked up Dragon's Crown Pro, and I thought that would be a really fun one to use on that.
Yeah, I was saying probably really good for more of the retro games. Like, I mean, hell, that'd be probably a fun controller to use for Curse of the Moon.
Yeah, that definitely would. The knobs on the top feel like a little slick, so it could do to get from some of them little, rubber toppers that they make to put on. But, it was $30, and, Hori always makes quality stuff. And I also picked up the new DK game on the Switch, which I didn't have before, so it actually was a new experience. For me, I'd had the one that came out on the 3DS. I forget all their names. I think I got Tropical Freeze. It's just kind of confusing. But it's a good game. Definitely the bit I've played, been really fun. And the gem of them all lately for me is something I've been waiting for a very long time, was to be able to play just arcade games like at ease. And I'd mentioned the Retrocade that they'd put out, which I thought was a really good selection of games. It was way better than the Retrobit Generations. $60, the cost of a new game. loaded with just a lot of great arcade games, way more than before, and some little bit more obscure, Super NES titles, had the other Final Fight games, 2 and 3, lots of Capcom Data East titles. But we did find, as my brother had got one too, we found that you can load arcade games on there with an SD card. And we came up with a list together, and, we made one. He put all the games on there, checked them all, made sure they worked, and, that was a little bit of a struggle at first. But came through, and I got an SD card in the mail, and loaded it in, and just had like hundreds of arcade games. And we've actually already started working on a revised list. We're going to take off, maybe a few. We had a few, like, Nintendo Super NES games on there, but come up with some, major titles maybe we missed. For instance, like the WWF Superstars was on there, but WrestleFest was not. And I was like, I really need WrestleFest. I mean, I can wait because I've waited many years to play Superstars. And man, it was just awesome. But yeah, it's very easy to do. And like I said, we got a great card, set up with the games. A few that I did play, Mutations, was kind of like a Altered Beast almost, just more thrown in a better beat 'em up game, whereas you can like transform into creatures and just beat the shit out of people.
Yeah, that was Neo Geo, right? Wasn't Neo Geo?
No, Mutations actually was not. You're thinking of Mutation Nation.
That's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Which was a beat 'em up. This one was I want to say maybe it was Taito. It was Taito or Data East, I think. But a very fun one. Kajeki was a all-time favorite arcade game of mine. Just kind of like a little over-the-top, kind of like Ring King, but a little bit more street fighting based. Super fun, like I said, Superstars. Such a joy to play that. Superstars and WrestleFest are two of the greatest wrestling arcade games just ever, and people love these to these days. Technos put them out. Billy and Jimmy Lee were in the crowd. They had this very specific look to them that just always stood out, and they were so much better than the home system games at the time. Super NES finally kind of started to catch up, and even they didn't have the look. So
yeah.
I still haven't got to go through and try, and like I said, I'm pulling up some more titles. I played some Jackie Chan fighting games, which are just absolutely rancid in the best way. They kind of play like Mortal Kombat. They kind of came on the heels of a lot of those crappy fighters. But man, it's really awesome. Like, this is what I've wanted for the longest time, was to be able just to play these arcade games. So many that I missed, so many I might have only played like one or two times, and like I said, we're revising it, gonna have even more, and I'm still just having a blast like going through theirs. Like, it's what I've always wanted. I feel more complete now. It's great.
Awesome. Well, me, like, I played and finished Venture Kid, made a review on that, and it was a really fun game. It should be coming out for the Switch sometime this year. And I would say, if you like Mega Man, definitely check out Venture Kid. It's not a long game. It's only like 9 levels. But I enjoyed that. The folks at FDG's really enjoyed my review on it. And also did a review for The End Is Nigh. I got a review copy from the Kylus on that. And I really enjoyed The End Is Nigh. If you like Super Meat Boy, it's right up the alley of the same progression. I mean, some people would even say it's a spiritual successor to Super Meat Boy. It's by the same team. And I liked it. It's hard. It's definitely got some crazy platforming to it, but it was a good game on the Switch to play on the go. It'd be like, it'd be a slow day at Pachinko World, and I'd like pop it in and play. And I played and beat Yakuza 6, and I'm actually probably going to go back to Yakuza 6 because I didn't do a whole lot of side quests. I didn't do a whole lot of that stuff. I was playing, seriously, one day I just woke up on my day off, and I was like on Chapter 9, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and finish the game because the story like had me so captivated, and I wanted to know what was going to happen. How was this story of Kiru's chapter? How was it going to end? And I was like, I'm just going to play it. So I played it from like 1 o'clock and beat the game at midnight. Like, I played for that long. I just sat there and just played and played and played. Took a couple breaks, took a couple smoke breaks, ate some food, went back and kept on playing. It was raining outside. It was nothing else to do. But I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously. I do plan on
Because I actually haven't beaten it yet. Might surprise some people, but I've said before, I played my Yakuza games very differently.
Yeah.
I'm only on Chapter 4, and, I take my time. I take breaks. I've been with that series for so long, but, like, I don't blame you at all in a sense of just going through and, like, hey, because the story can grab you. And you might as well just go back, where me, like, I'm soaking in so much of the extra, like, I have to do the side missions. It takes me like a little bit longer, but at least you have something, to definitely go back to and kind of have like a whole new experience, because the side missions are just such fun,
Yeah, honestly, the side quests, I'm just feel like a whole new, different game. And I plan on doing a review of Yakuza 6, and it's going to be spoiler free. But, that's one of the things I'm going to be mentioning is how the mini games in the Yakuza games, you can just play all the mini stuff and get a totally different gaming experience than when you play the main story. It's so weird about the fact that the story is so serious in the Yakuza series, and then the side quest is like, oh no, these two people fell and they switched bodies and they don't know what's going on. You got like a weird mission like that, or dressing up like a mascot and doing stuff. And I will say, James, not to spoil anything, but there is a little Easter egg that you'll find with the Pocket Racer. He makes a return in this one.
Goddamn Pocket Racers, man. That was the bane of my existence in Zero. That's just what just messed me all. That's when I went ahead and I decided to skip all the extra stuff. And I was like, I'm just finishing this game with goddamn Pocket Racer. Wish I could beat him up. I'd probably feel a little bit better.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. But and that's pretty much going to be wrapping up the show. We've covered a lot of things, and I do want to say for our listeners, if you're listening to this on YouTube, and it seems to be a little later because, we're recording this on the 20th. It's probably a little bit later on YouTube. Keep in mind, check us out on Podomatic and on iTunes. We upload it a lot frequently, and it comes out a lot quicker on those sites than it does on YouTube. And if you do check us out on Podomatic or on iTunes, be sure to rate the show, give us a review. It helps push our show in the algorithms and have other people find us. And if you are listening to us on Podomatic or on iTunes, be sure to check out the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Xander Skullion. It's my channel where I upload the podcast. It's kind of like an archive for people to listen to later. And also my channel where I review games, talk discussions, and all that good stuff. And be sure to also check out the XS Gaming Podcast Facebook group page. It's on Facebook/group/XS Gaming Podcast. Anyway, guys, hope you have a wonderful day. And as always, happy gaming.
Have a pleasant evening, everybody.